Okay, this is nature in Act 2 of Macbeth. Starting off with this one, I have drugged their possets that death and nature do contend about them, whether they live or die. This is Lady Macbeth talking about the two guards. The possets are their drinks. She's drugged their drinks and it's doubtful whether they're going to survive or not. The first bit we're looking at is death and nature do contend. Contend means to struggle, so death and nature here are opposites. So if death and nature are being opposites, that means nature is synonymous with life. They're antonyms, therefore, and this is an example of antithesis. The next bit is live or die. We've got here more antithesis, live, die, they're opposites. This is almost a palindrome again. Death and nature versus live and die. Die, live, die. It's just like foul is fair and fair is foul and foul is fair in Act 1, Scene 1. Lady Macbeth's speech patterns are starting to become the same, or at least similar, to how the witches speak. On to Act 2, Scene 2 now. Macbeth says, I have done the deed, didst thou not hear a noise? The deed being Duncan's murder. And Lady Macbeth says, I heard the owl scream and the crickets cry. This is going to be a useful little section here. Done the deed. This is a euphemism. It's a word or phrase substituted for something because what you want to say is too harsh. So done the deed is used as a euphemism for murder. So he already feels guilty enough about what he's done that he can't actually say the words. We're only a couple of minutes after Duncan's murder and he can't actually say the word murder because he's feeling too guilty about it. Lady Macbeth's response is that she heard the owl scream and the crickets cry. This use of animal imagery suggests that nature is outraged by what Macbeth has done. The owl is screaming in rage or pain, and the crickets are crying from sadness. More Act 2, Scene 2. Macbeth says, Macbeth does murder sleep, the innocent sleep, great nature's second course. So we can go with Macbeth does murder sleep. This is a metaphor. He hasn't murdered sleep. He's murdered Duncan. What he's done is he's murdered any chance that he has of sleeping in the future. He's feeling too guilty. He can't sleep in the future. This really symbolises Macbeth murdering part of his own nature. He needs sleep and he needs to play his kind of natural role in society. His lack of sleep is symbolic of him now being unnatural, some kind of unnatural being who doesn't sleep. He calls sleep great nature's second course. This is a metaphor, obviously. It compares this time sleep to food, and more specifically the main course of a meal. This emphasises both the importance of sleep, so it's as important as eating, but also through the proximity to the two metaphors, it links sleep to nature. So you can see in the actual quotation itself, if you zoom back to it, the closeness of the repetition of the word sleep and the word nature there. So sleep is natural. Macbeth has murdered something natural. He has murdered nature. He's gone against nature. Act 2, Scene 3. Macbeth is describing the murder scene. Here lay Duncan, his silver skin laced with his golden blood, and his gashed stabs looked like a breach in nature for ruin's wasteful entrance. Here obviously we've got his gashed stabs looked like a breach in nature. It's a particularly interesting one. Firstly, Macbeth stabbing Duncan was indeed a break with his nature. He was a loyal subject, and now he's become unnaturally disloyal. Is kind of already paying for it by not being able to sleep. So the breach in nature could be the breach in Macbeth's own nature, in his personality. Another reading is that the king of the country is, or was, metaphorically thought to represent the country itself. So any harm done to the king is harm done to the country as well. The king, therefore, is synonymous with nature. If the king is the country, the king is nature. A hole in the king is therefore a hole in nature itself. That has certain ramifications, because if there's a hole in nature, it will allow ruin's wasteful entrance. So here ruin means chaos, anarchy and disorder. If the king represents order, nature and things being as they should be, now he's dead, disorder can come into the world. He is like the wall that holds all these bad things out. This is represented by Macbeth's chaotic time as king. Macbeth is an unnatural king. He doesn't keep all those things out, and obviously everything in Scotland goes to hell while he's in charge. Act 2, Scene 4. Right, this is when the Ross and the old man are talking. This is after Duncan's been found. This is after Donalbain and Malcolm have fled to Ireland and England, respectively. Ross says to the old man, "Darkness does the face of earth entomb, when living light should kiss it." And the old man replies with, "'Tis unnatural, even like the deed that's done." So we're going to go with Ross's one first of all. Darkness does the face of earth entomb, when living light should kiss it. So darkness is obviously linked with death. The word entomb there means to put something in a grave. Light is linked with life. So darkness, death, light, life. Antithesis, obviously, we've got some more of that kind of opposites there. It links back to fair is foul, our usual and most heavily kind of remembered piece of antithesis. Nature is starting to become the opposite of what it should be. It's now dark during the daytime. Nature is becoming the opposite of what it should be. And the old man makes the obvious statement, "'Tis unnatural." Yeah, darkness in the daytime is unnatural, even like the deed that's done. This links really nicely back to Macbeth earlier in the act, saying, "I have done the deed." So the deed there, in both cases, is the murder of Duncan. It's that euphemism, or that euphemistic word. And after this, the old man goes on to list lots of ways in which nature has started to go wrong. So a hawk, a falcon towering in his pride of place, was hawked at by a mousing owl and killed. Duncan's horses did turn upon each other and eat themselves. There are examples of ruin entering the world. So you can look back at that previous quote. Once the king is dead, the entire natural order starts to disintegrate.